Well, good morning to you all and welcome to Good Morning Uganda Friday. It is that special edition we do give you with a lot of different spices from the normal days from Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and definitely today makes it Friday. Now, it is also that 16th day of December. Now, that also means the month is coming. It's actually past mid-month, so we're glad to say that we are almost in the evening times of this particular month. Now, it is also a festive month where we do celebrate Christmas, we celebrate New Year's, Boxing Day, among the very many other days. And of course for us, the Catholics and of course Christians, we say Emmanuel. Now that will be one of the reasons that will be highlighted next week. But for this particular week, we also come to you to give you more of the things that you do need to do spice up your festive times. And that I don't do alone. I do with my colleagues, Robert, Mollen, and of course in absentia, Madam Philo, but in spirit, she says she's here. Good morning, Robert.
Well, good morning, Felix.
How are you?
Now when you begin with issues of the spirit, there are people there in the spirit, so I was trying to figure out now where is Philo's spirit around here. But good in spirit, she's around. Otherwise, it's a Friday. I'm happy it's a weekend, and more so, it's a weekend that is amidst the festive season. Many people are coming back home, formerly we call our summer. They are coming back home to have family time, have quality time, but also to make some showbiz here and there. But also, we must say it has also been a fairly good week. I don't want to look into the element of soccer. It is what it is, and of course those that are going to the finals are there. But I want to look at a few things that have really made this week. To me, one of them is the US Africa Leadership Summit. One of the things that I found very interesting, how Ugandans were so passionate, taken up, and of course with the political arena where there was a little bit of proving false some allegations, some rumors regarding the political terrain of this country. His Excellency Joe Biden inviting President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, him going to the US, to the UK, and all these, I want to say, for me, this summit really, I just await to see what benefits we are getting as a country. But I know that issues of trade, good relations and all that. And there's one picture I really enjoyed when I saw His Excellencies watching the World Cup as well. So I find it a very interesting thing that has dominated this week. Of course, with a sad note on the rebels sneaking in to Toroko, but the good thing was they were also terribly defeated according to UPDF. That is what we know, and we believe peace will be restored in that region. So, well, of course, by and large, that has been my week.
Okay. Of course, that among very many other aspects we did look at this week, we've been trying to give you, our viewers, consistently updates on what's happening. Now, Robert did bring in a good one about the leadership summit in the US. Well, of course, proving, I don't think there's been doubt anyway. You see, social media gives a wrong whole picture about how the world is run or how states are run. But, well, some people do sideline talk. Mollen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Felix. And of course, I want to say good morning, Uganda, to our viewers. Well, you can talk about sidelining, but also we need to look into the fact that there is an issue with leadership in Africa, not particularly Uganda, because we have actually been on top of that. But things must be talked about, and it's no wonder that Africans are concerned, because if you look at the people taking it to social media, actually these are Africans. They are concerned for their leadership, and it's only fair that they also have a voice to front out the things they think should be addressed, even at such summits. But talking of which, we also saw for the first time ever an office of the first daughter. That is when when the first daughter of Kenya, Shireen Ruto, took it to stage during the Youth Leaders Summit to say that she has an office of the first daughter. And to the audience surprise, they're like, okay, that exists.
And she was introducing staff of the office of the first
A whole
daughter.
delegation, I can assure you. And she says, this is the office of the first daughter.
This is a publicity secretary, office of the first daughter. This is the office of the first daughter.
But let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Why is it news? You've never heard of it?
No,
Seriously?
there has never been an office of the first
No, you have
daughter
just
before.
never heard of it. Don't say it has never been there. The
Well-
US has it. I'm telling you, honestly, just go and read about it. The US has
We
it.
are talking about East Africa, we're talking about Kenya in this picture, and this is why Kenyans are now saying, okay, what else can we expect? Is there going to be an office of the first son or first nephew? Because their concern is, it is funded by taxpayers' money. So they are saying, this is our money. Why is it that we were never aware that there is this kind of office? And I think it's the first across East Africa. We also don't have that in Uganda. But hey, Kenyans have a voice, and they're saying we need explicitly to be explained to how this office operates, who put it there, under which mandate, and there is a lot of questions. But we are still expecting that those will come in, because Shireen is actually one lady that is very upfront. She came to stage and said, hey, the youth I'm trying to help are the ones actually hyping, questioning this office, so bring it on. And I think also among the expectations for this week back home here is the famous list. If you know what I'm talking about, the baby cool list is almost out. And I did see people taking it to social media as well, saying, why do people hype this list? We're talking about big musicians here. Who has done it? And for some reason, Pepe Cool has taken it upon himself to always showcase this list. So I know there is an anticipation for that, but also a lot to be expected today. The ASFAs are here. People are jetting in for that. And of course, we did see also our Grammy nominee taking it to big stage, and of course meeting with some of the nominees. That is Eddie Kenzo. I say he's going very huge steps, and that means that maybe there is hope we could actually scoop that Grammy. And a lot of expectations as we head into Christmas. I think the excitement is worth it.
Well, happiness is the definition of this particular season, and all of you are encouraged to stay happy now. Amidst the hardest times we live in as a country, do not forget to keep your smile on or find a reason to be happy. But something quite alive today we want to bring to you in this particular festive season is the challenges of mental health. They are on a rise, they are on an increase, so watch out. Be kind, try to talk to people, check on your people quite often. It's only courteous in that sense. It's very, very, very instant. Yeah, we've had a couple of people commit suicide this week, and internationally, even locally. We had lots of people are going mad, people are going berserk. You find people on streets talking alone. Times are not easy. So one of the things we must pick up in this particular festive season is reaching out. Let's reach out to each other, let's talk to each other. Try as much as possible to be as kind as you can. Please, even when you feel like you want to burst out. For the landlords, be very calm. For the, what is the opposite of landlord?
Tenants.
The tenants, equally, know how to talk to people. One time I was having a discussion with the Honorable on Bid Day, and he said something that I thought was quite important, that sometimes being humble makes you lose nothing. And he said that in the sense of the parents who take kids back to school. Why would you let your child sit at school for a term? Just go and talk to the head of the school, to the owner. Be humble, like be willing to lose your pride. And this is the season for all of you. I know people will get into Christmas without a good meal. Be humble to lose your pride and talk to someone if you think you can be helped. And for some of you who are in positions of helping, please don't think twice. One of the things, as I've learned over time and over the years, is never to think twice when it's about kindness, when it's about helping. So this is for me important as we get into this season. We are already actually in the season, and that's why today is one of those days we call Special Friday edition. And of course, it is also told very much by this beautiful tree. Is it a tree? And I want to ask Mollen and Bob, I don't know if you know the history of this thing here. Robert, you don't know you don't know why we use this for Christmas? Okay. Do you have any idea or any thought?
I don't want to.
Before I come to Mollen.
Felix.
Yes,
I
sir.
don't want to blunder. All I know is I've grown up seeing a Christmas tree every Christmas at home with gifts at the bottom of it.
That's all you know.
That on Boxing Day we unwrap and get
Okay.
our presents. On the 31st, we used to
we are
burn
talking
it.
about the
That
tree.
is all I can say.
Mollen.
Well, I think what I know about the Christmas tree is that actually the tradition originated from Germany. For whatever they would do to celebrate, they would start with a Christmas tree, and I think to them it meant something. So how we again adopted to have that on Christmas is something that is still a mystery to me, but that brings in a good thought. I think I need to do more research on how we adopted the tradition from Germany.
For some of you who love Bible school and reading, when you read the story of the birth of Jesus, from the time that Mary conceived, when angel Gabriel came and told her, remember the same angel went to Joseph and told him that don't you worry. Now, when the time came when they were going to looking out to kill some of the kids that were going to be born in that time, and Joseph took Mary away too. You know where Jesus was born? Mollen.
Yeah.
Bible school is
listening to that story. It's like we're having this Bible school
where Jesus was born. I wanted you guys to fit in the
that's why Bethlehem.
Yes, so yes. Joseph escaped with Mary to Bethlehem in the crowd. Now, because that was a place for cows, there were many trees around there. Now, because the Son of God was being born, there was a big star that day. The one that you see on the top of the tree, there's a star. When you seated into the crowd, when you looked at the tree, and there was that glittering from the skies. And so but probably if that works into the complementing of Mollen and the Germany, there could be many schools of thoughts, but that's one of them, that around the crowd where Jesus was born, there were these kind of trees. And when you looked from inside, you would see the star at the top of the tree and the glitter.
The glittering. So that's why we have the Christmas lights.
Absolutely.
The star on top.
Now trying to bring the image of that was in Bethlehem. And that's why
the decoration.
Absolutely, to try and bring out the glitter.
Even Germans would come and have together gatherings to decorate a tree. I think that's what we do for
That's
Christmas.
why in the French say, Noel. You've heard of the song, Noel. You know that song, Noel, 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 Noel. So, but in the French they say Joyeux Noel. I like how Robert is. He's a good student.
Anyway, reason being, this
that.
man was supposed to be a priest. Don't forget, he was in the seminary for some time.
And
so
for some reason,
when he's speaking, he's speaking, for some reasons, he notes that his calling wasn't that. But still, he's doing good ministry. So when he's talking about issues regarding that, I highly respect him, because I know he's factual. He has
but anyway,
rather than certain things where I may choose not to nod my head because but with that,
but we give glory to God for this season, Robert.
You do some Sunday school teaching?
Yeah, I used to do. I used to be a catechist in Rubaga with my grandmother. When I was still young, the likes of the Kamogawa, some of my students, I taught many kids catechism in Rubaga, but that was quite a long time ago now. But anyway, Robert, it is a good time to be happy, and that for me is the emphasis. Before we get into our local stories, maybe just to listen to the two of you, what would be your ultimate lookout message for this particular season, knowing that we'll be suffering hard economic times? We just gotten out of COVID-19. We have every family somehow, somewhat has felt the pinch of this situation. Trust me. What will be the courteous message you would give out to our viewers out there throughout this season? Maybe I'll start with Bob.
Be kind.
That's key.
Be kind. This principle. Time we need acts of kindness. Some of you have more than what you can eat, and your families.
Oh yeah.
But there's someone who is going to go on an empty stomach. Let's be kind. Give that which you are going to throw or give to that dog. Some of you, your budgets are so huge. You can lengthen that and make this year's Christmas special to somebody else. So my message, given the hard economic times, is be kind. Share. Invite people. Our Muslim brothers, there's a way they do it, that Eids are to invite people and have a meal together. How about this Christmas? If you can open doors to people, have more people to come. They could be less privileged at such a time, but you don't know what that meal and a bottle of soda may mean to your neighbor's kid. You don't know what. So let's be kind, let's share, let's welcome people, let's be very considerate, let's bear each other's burdens, is the message I have this Christmas.
Lovely message from Uncle Bob, Robert Kirabo, Nyonyintono. If you don't hear any message again from him, please keep in mind the issue of kindness. Mollen.
Be giving. I think that's my main message.
Giving.
And yes, in
Lovely.
the spirit of Thanksgiving, yes, we give thanks to God for all we have acquired this year, but also be able to share that, and that adds to Robert's message, because we know that this is a season where people are taking holidays. There are those that have, like you put it clearly, the economic situation, but have that as you in your spirit, be able to give, whether regardless of whether these people have or not, just put it upon yourself to give. And another one would be share love. You have family, you have friends. That this is a time you actually interact with a lot of people in the holiday. Make sure that you're sharing that love and be able to see people, interact with them, share. Because I think this is how we are getting into issues like people having suicide. Just that story of Twitch actually got me thinking. This is a man who has been very famous, very rich, beyond it all. People thought he was happy. And then eventually he committed suicide. So please be able to share, show people love, show that you can talk to them. And that's how you get to know each other, because it could take another year before you get to meet again in such a festive season.
Oh yeah, but in relation to that, I think we need to keep, I've noticed over time that we need to keep tabs on people's social medias. People post how they feel sometimes. So be keen on what your friends are posting. I've seen this is actually true. People try to, when they fail to get ways of expressing how they feel, they normally go into their handles. You see people's
And then
statuses.
welcome them with violence.
And you're like, man, someone
There
is,
are signs there.
that something
Someone
is
is
going
hurting,
wrong.
like
Someone is being
Phil said.
depressed.
Then the replies is getting
Yeah,
the
we
responses.
need to be kind, man. We need to be
Yeah.
kind. And it's a noble calling. It's biblical. Robert, just lastly, Robert talked about giving. There's this song of Pastor Bugembe. I don't know if you know the title, but it talks about, he says that when you have overthrown food at home, like wemusule merenge weze neyinga obungi namutandika olowooza oggulayo obubizi. Yeah, like because you know that you throw a lot of food, now you're thinking of rearing poultry. Is it poultry? Piggery, because of how much food you
extra
throw.
food, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a big, and for us here who grew up in this Uganda place, we know that throwing food is actually evil. So, food, kindness, giving is our message. Good morning, Uganda. We do carry with you, and definitely we are going to be praying for you that everything will go well. But what else is happening is our local stories. Want to give you highlights indeed what happened or what made news on the spectrum of national, international, but even we'll start with the local stories. Robert and I will be taking you through, and Mollen will be taking you through international stories, and of course she'll give us an update on climate and nature, weather, and of course for me and Bob, I want to kick it off with local stories.
And looking at our local stories this morning, we have, that is the Chief of Defense Forces, UPDF, General Wilson Mbadi, who has saluted his men and women in uniform for their concerted efforts, which has recently seen Uganda repulse back the M23 rebels, which had invaded Uganda's territory in an operation which left between 20 to 30 attackers killed and others arrested. General Mbadi was witnessing the office handover of the newly appointed army commanders at an event held at Bombo Army Barracks in Luwero district. Early this week, reports of invasion and attacks by gunmen attached to the Congolese-based M23 rebels kept on flowing over different social media platforms, indicating how they had crossed into Uganda's side of Ntoroko district. However, their rapid response by Uganda's security forces, UPDF, enabled to restore peace in the area in an operation which left close to 30 of the attackers killed and others arrested.
Looking at the appeal chambers in The Hague have dismissed 90 grounds of appeal filed by the former LRA leader Dominic Ongwen, upheld the 25-year sentence in the case where Ongwen was challenging the trial chamber's decision. Now, in dismissing the appeal, the court was of the view that the applicant failed to prove the court with evidence that the lower court erred in law when it convicted him on 61 counts of war crimes, crimes against humanity.
And moving on, there is tension among residents of Obora Town Council in Koboko district as suspected South Sudan armed forces have carried out several lootings of property belonging to Ugandans. According to the RDC Koboko, Tom Olinga, the lootings and attacks started 2 days ago where animals and other properties were looted, causing tension among the Koboko residents. He says they are now engaging the authorities of South Sudan to ascertain and verify the suspected armed group.
On our truce to have harmony between Speaker Anita Among and Housing State Minister Percy Namuganza is being proposed to ensure peace between the two. Now, the Minister of Information, Communication Technology and National Guidance, Dr. Chris Baryomunsi, prefers a peaceful resolution as opposed to censure motion. Addressing journalists at the Media Center in Kampala, Baryomunsi appeals to Parliament to concentrate more on development-oriented activities as opposed to what he calls petty.
And now crossing over to the international scene, William screamed at me during a summit, says Harry. Prince Harry has described how terrifying it was for his brother to scream and shout at him when they met to discuss his and Meghan's future. In a Netflix series, Prince Harry says it was his decision, not Meghan's, to leave after plans for a half-in, half-out royal life were rejected during a family meeting at the Sandringham. He says his father said things that just simply weren't true as his grandmother, the Queen, looked on. Buckingham Palace has not commented. In the latest and final installments of the docuseries, Harry and Meghan described why they decided to give up their royal duties and move on to the US, claiming that they were not supported by the royal family during a barrage of negative press that was mainly directed at Meghan. Another story, Meta has warned that the use of spyware to indiscriminately target people, including journalists and activists, is a persistent threat because of surveillance. Fire companies continue to adapt and change tactics in the face of efforts to shut down their capabilities. A report by Facebook's parent company described efforts by the social media group to remove a number of firms, including 2 linked to Russia, 1 based in Israel, and an entity in China, all of which were alleged by Meta to have been used to scrap Facebook and Instagram for users' private information in attempt to compromise users' accounts. In one case, Meta said it removed more than 100 accounts on Facebook and Instagram linked to a company called Avalanche in Russia, which it said sold access to platform that allows spying across the internet. And from the US-Africa Summit, Joe Biden says US is an all-in on Africa's future. Now, US President Joe Biden has announced billions of dollars in support and investment for Africa at the summit with the continent's head of state. The United States is all in on Africa's future, President Biden told the 49 African leaders attending the Washington meeting. It is the first such gathering hosted by Washington for 8 years. The summit is seen as US's attempt to reassert its influence in Africa to counter Chinese investment. Now, it also comes after Donald Trump's 4-year tenure in office, during which he aligned numerous African leaders with policy decisions and insulting comments. And in weather and nature news, NATO holds first ever roundtable on climate change and security. NATO headquarters held its first ever climate change and security roundtable on Thursday, and this event brought together representatives of NATO allies and renowned climate experts to discuss the impact of climate change on security. Among the issues discussed were the latest trends on climate change and security in the Euro-Atlantic region, the implications of climate change for NATO's future operating environment, and best practices from NATO allies and other international bodies with respect to climate adaptation and mitigation. Now, the Climate Change and Security Roundtable included speakers from the World Meteorological Organization, the World Bank Group, the UK Meteorological Office, the International Military Council on Climate and Security, and the US Department of Defense, the UN Departments of Peacekeeping Operations and of the Operation Support, Natural Resources of Canada, and the International Integration Technology Group.
Well, that is what's happening internationally, and of course we also did give you a highlight of a couple of the stories we did look at yesterday locally here. But today is Friday, the 16th day of December 2022. Isn't the Lord good that has brought us this far? You know, I can imagine how this year started. We're all thinking about the 10th of January. Was it 10th when they were supposed to unlock the whole country?
Yeah.
Something like that. But look where we are. Whoever saw us come this far. We've lost a lot of people along the way. We've lost lots of investments, time, money along the way. But tell you what, we have not lost. We've not lost our guts to do praise and worship God because we're here. Yeah. Isn't it a good thing? Is that a good
It
feeling?
is, and as we are counting down to the 42 days when Uganda will be declared Ebola free, because we are now just counting. Should it clock the 11th of next month, then Uganda with no any new case. As so far we have not registered any new case for the last about 10-11 days. So then the World Health Organization will declare us Ebola free.
It's certainly been a long year.
It's been a long year. It's been a long time coming, honestly and truly.
It's coming to an end. I think there is a lot to be grateful for. And as Uganda, I think we've also been going through the longest, hailing from what Robert is talking about. We've had to deal with a lot. But it's finally coming to an end. And I think we should give thanks for that, for sure.
We do give glory and thanks to God. But as we do give that, we also want to tell you to take care of yourselves importantly. Away from just what we said earlier, now we're asking people to take care of others, but now we're asking our viewers and ourselves to take care of ourselves. This is key in this festive season. Now, sometimes we get ahead of our excitements. If you've seen many scenarios, Robert and Mollen, where people get so excited. Now, also happiness can be a problem. When people get so happy, they react differently. Sometimes the results bring sadness. Sometimes for some of our friends who do the opaque bottle, you know what I'm talking about. When you go out and have some good time, when you overdrink, so be careful about your life.
People say, Felix, one time it was Christmas, so I met this drunkard. He had a 5-liter jerry can full of local
Coins.
Brew. 5 liter.
Which one? You see, there's a lot of brew. Yeah.
I don't even know what it was, but that one that you can put in the jerry can. 5 liter. He was moving with a cup.
Tonto or something.
So I tell him, but you man, how can you drink all that? He told me, sekukuru sikabenje, twetegeka, tutandiko 7, namugo kusatu.
And you know,
Abavu temutugembe. Only the morning to be told in her, Arube I
because of what?
I saw this guy.
Alcohol.
Recently there was a guy who was on social media who was captured as he was being ran over by a truck. That drunk. If you've seen that clip, it's very. I think he's around Kalere.
Oh dear.
That he came very drunk. He had 1,000 shillings. He wanted to get aboard a border, so they told him they can't take him with his 1,000 shillings. So he goes staggering, only to see, I think it was a car carrier, and he runs to get hold of it. He missed and handed in the wheels, and it ran over him.
That's quite sad, so please avoid being victims of circumstances. Take care of yourselves, eat well, do some exercising, free your spirit, man. Free your spirits. Sometimes we can't do everything. We just can't be the total rhetoric of full life. We can't live life at the fullest. Just be happy with what you're able to do.
But also be tolerant.
Absolutely.
Don't leave your family because of I mean, don't blame the husband because he has failed to provide the 10 kilos of meat you want, new clothes, new shoes. Let's be tolerant. Accept what has been provided.
We love you, our dear spouses. Please be considerate. But we're going to take a break. We will be back, me and the colleagues, and we'll be talking about something quite related to what we're saying. Something to do with relationships and status, and how does that affect people's livelihood. Let's take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC.
If I'm looking at issues of taxation and all that, I will definitely run for the Kateshumbas. Okay? If I look at, if I'm looking at issues of investments and what, I would definitely run. I would definitely run for Dr. Emure Kugonza and Honorable Omara. Okay. If I'm looking at issues of the law, I will run for our very own people. I have the Oboso bosses, I have the Katuntus, I have the Robin Arwakojos. So everyone is talented in one way or another.
Did you mention Katuntu?
Okay. Yes.
Is he yours?
Yes, he is.
Yours as in NRM?
He is.
Was brought to you by
Get away with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
Said I'm fired up. I'm sorry, time's up. I see the top and I climb up. Came from the ashes, I rise up.
every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth, in the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the Pearl of Africa.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Once again, welcome back to this particular segment where we do take you into a topic of discussion. And definitely being Friday, we try to listen up and have a discussion that does touch family, social life, and later on, of course, individual and coupled welfare. Now today, in a special way, this particular week, FIDA did hit courts of law to try and make good the status of some particular women. Apparently, they were particular about their petition. They were talking about women, not men. I wonder why. Probably we should also have on, I don't know, it will be called the MIDA, the men's. We need to think about something that fights for the men's rights. But anyway, the argument was that we need to legalize a particular status of relationship between man and woman. And the argument again was that if you have spent, a woman has spent time with a man, regardless of the fact that they are in a matrimonial union, they should have a valid known status. And that's going to be the thesis of our discussion, trying to understand this issue of status. What is the role of identity, status in a relationship? And just to give a brief background, in Uganda, legally we have a union of man and woman known in various marriages or unisoms. That could be customary, it could be through the civil procedures, later on customary, and of course for our brothers we use the Muhammadan Act or the Sharia law as they call it, and those are what we call authorized unions of husband and wife, which bring into unison of these two to become one under the law. It has been also acknowledged that when people stay together for a long time, shouldn't this be a marriage? The big question also, as I bring in, and I technically want to start with Mollen for a purpose, which I will tell you later. Why is it important to get status because of longevity? Do you think it's important? Maybe I should ask her.
Yes, yes.
Do you think, and why?
I don't think it is important, and I think at a certain level we have to acknowledge that they do have a point, as FIDA coming out to say this is something that we should be addressing, because I think we have lagged behind even with regard to such issues. Because you look at the fact that we're talking about relationships that have been there, long-term relationships, without a marriage certificate, without legally being married. Now, a man and woman staying together for over 5 years or over 10 years, they have kids together. And now you look at, because this whole issue comes in the event of either death or separation. Who then gets to, you know, take on the responsibility or even share on the property? I think that is where the whole discussion is about. And we're looking at...
If you don't mind me interjecting, Mollen, sorry.
Yes.
You talked about a long time. What is a long time?
Well...
And let's just based on your opinion, not even legal, but in your opinion, as ladies who are agitating for this or calling upon this, what would be long enough in your opinion?
Long enough, in my opinion, would be long enough for you to have had a child together.
That could be 2 years?
That could be 2 years, because as long as you have...
Child takes 9 months, making the child takes about 3 minutes or what? So.
Yeah, but we also look into the circumstances of cohabitation, because we're looking at a couple that has been staying together. We're not talking about you two who have not been staying together, you don't even know much about each other.
So there's an element of staying together for all this time.
Exactly, because that is what cohabiting now means. You are staying together for a certain period of time. And I think there is a reason why some countries have adopted a law in that, and I will quote the UK and Ireland. They have had a law where they talk about civil partnership and certain rights and obligation of cohabitants. The Act 2010, that was in the UK when they first talked about that. And in this particular kind of law, they are talking about 5 years for a couple that has lived together, committed in a committed relationship for at least 5 years, or live together in an intimate relationship, committed relationship for 2 years, and you have a child together. Then you have the exemption of being out of the initial law that protects married couples. You can also be entitled to take on financial rights or obligation from your partner in the event of death or separation. So I think this is something that FIDA is also trying to introduce, because also if you look at the lady who actually fronted this to FIDA, she was saying about 7 years, I think, 7 years in a marriage. They have kids together, and now it has reached a time of separation, and the husband is not talking about equal rights to, you know, to the property. And now that is where the unfairness comes in. And advocating for rights at that level, you now look at who is involved, because you have children involved. And I think men have also had a bad track record of distancing themselves from the rights to protect their children in the event of separation. So this is why women are coming up to say, look, I think it's about time that we brought into law something to a law to protect cohabitation, especially in the event of separation and death.
All right. So Mollen tries to shed light into the whys of the women. But the big question to you, and being of gender sensitive, why is it always about what the women need in a relationship? I feel like it's about what the women need out of the relationship. Because again, as Mollen tried to put it, she took it back to, in case there's sharing of property, in case there's... So why is it about what the women need? Is it about the women needing, or it's about the two?
Well, thank you for that interesting question, Felix. And I'm going to try and be as neutral as possible.
I pray
as
you
I
do.
can be.
I pray, because the last time we had something similar to this, Bob.
Well, now just speaking of the genesis of this.
That was different, but I hope it's a different
I was almost lynched after this show here in the studio.
I know, but
that's a workman. And I saw how
so
these
this
people
time you better be careful.
I'm trying to be as careful as I can as well. But
oh, I put myself in arm's way last Friday. By the grace of
should
God,
have thought about.
But I want to first go back to the simple background of FIDA. Now, we see the organization of the Association of Uganda Women Lawyers, that is FIDA, petitioned High Court seeking orders compelling government to recognize cohabitation relationships. First, recognize them, because by law they're not recognized, but recognize them as cohabitation relationships and enact laws that protect them. Now, they went on a background of a lady, that is Annette Nasozi, who claims that she has not been protected. She has been in a relationship for 27 years. And now the husband or the partner is saying, let's depart, go as you came, leave me as I am. Now, we must first understand that given an African setting, in any relationship, apart from of recent, where I've seen women emancipation, women were very vulnerable. Some of these now, for a lady like this one who has spent 27 years in a marriage, some of them began these families when they were very young. They have been entirely relying on the husbands, many of them. They don't work, the husband goes and works. But you see, over a time, so he believes he bought the land because they were not working. He bought the car, he built the house. You've been home. Now, when it's time to say let's part ways, you're not protected anywhere by the law, so you just have to pack your bags and go. But with all honesty, when you look at 27 years of being together, I find it very hard for someone to say that the other has had no contribution. Sometimes the ideas, oh, mommy, I think if you buy a plot, then you buy. The convenience she has given you, the knowledge, the wisdom. Even you may dress up, but you're not the one who washes or irons. So there's so much. The vulnerability of women in third world countries, I must say, is so high that when relationships come to an end, they end out being the losers. In very few relationships in Africa do we find that the men are the losers. Leave alone of it where we are seeing some young lads becoming so stupid, I must use that word, that they go and target rich women. You know, for them they spend time in gym, building bodies, minding about their faces, their figures, and looking good. Then nebetega to get these rich women and enjoy that life. That's not how an African man is brought up. We are brought up to be men, to care, to fend, to be heads, to provide. Though that we are seeing some stupidness taking up a certain generation. So these relationships leave a woman helpless. So this is contrary to their counterparts that are protected by the law. And actually these women are saying that failure of government to have a law that protects people in cohabitation or cohabiting relationships is failure for government to fulfill its obligation to protect and promote rights of people in relationships regardless their marriage status. So government must protect all. Now, I was looking through statistics by the Uganda Bureau of Standards that carries out census, and it's a health democratic report for between 2006 and 2016. And what I found is very funny, Felix, that relations, people in cohabitation, from 2006 to 2017, statistics indicate that these relationships are on an increase. That for the women, in 2006, they were at 14%. By 2016, they were at 30%. That is an increase from 14% to 30%. This is an increment. Now, for the men, they increased from 6% in 2006 to 2016, they were at 19%. And what I was able to get is research from 2006 to 2016. Now that means, Mollen and Felix, that now they have increased even more from that. So when you have a problem in society and you know that this is increasing, it is affecting not only the women, it's affecting even the children, because someone will simply say, go, naba nabo genda nabo. So it is affecting the children, it is affecting these women. Then you need a law. But I think our brother also must also, this is addressing a symptom, but we must understand what is causing these marriages, Felix. I mean, these relationships. Why is it that now Mollen is no longer waiting for Felix Nkunda to come to his parents' home, carry out, get introduced, pay the bride price, then walk through church or go through the mosque? Why is it that Felix Nkunda, you wake up one day, you go against the couple,
and just right about that, Robert, from there is where we want to get our question to put to our viewers out there, also to be a part of this discussion, that why are cohabiting relationships on a rise? Based on from what Robert has given us statistically, that the increase is quite tremendous, both for men and women. You could be able to share with us on this topic, why are cohabiting relationships on the rise? Let me be able to hit our social media platforms, also on WhatsApp 0709 60 25 92, and share with us, why do you think these cohabiting relationships, why are girls easily lured into starting a life with a man regardless of any ceremonial, or why are the men in the same way more interested? And Robert, just before I get back to you, and that point is why I want to bring in Mollen right here. You did say there's need to be justice, and I want to use that term, and clearly that's a matter of fact. We all believe and trust that it is not fair. And springing from the case we have talked about, you don't spend all these years with someone and make it look like they have had no contribution. And by the way, even before that, you know, it was more or less the same thing even in marriage relationships. Is this a craft of society, a craft of culture, a craft of a generational craft? Like, where is the missing link for us to continuously, because this is the evidence that we are looking at women as not very much important in some of these relationships, if I may use that in quotes. Because why does the argument have to be about what the woman gets? That means that why is the discussion around the woman and not entirely about the two people? You get the point? Like, where is the missing gap, Mollen?
So for me, I actually think that there are some of the gaps, before we go to the missing gaps, there are some of the gaps that have been closed so far. Because if you look at the tradition, even way back, we used to have some cultures where if you got married, as a woman, you would be forced to stay in a marriage because of the mere fact that your husband paid bride price. Because some cultures, the moment you separate from this man, he would have the right to go to your family and take back what was given. That was the level we were at. But with the initiatives that have come up, we've had to leave that behind. And now you look at, even like you said, it has been legalized, even for married couples. It wasn't that easy. But now you at least have a law that would allow for an equal rights, especially in the event of all that. But you look at what is happening right now. 27 years of marriage, and a man comes up to say, you know what?
Living together.
Yeah.
Not marriage.
Well, okay, not. not Well, so 27 years of living together, and then a man comes up and says, you know what? Go back the way you came. They are not looking at the way you've been supportive, the way you've been part of what they have achieved then. And I think getting back to what you're saying, how do we end up there? And I think this is something that we also need to keenly look at, because we now have a generation of young girls and boys that really want to start a relationship together. But because there has been a standard set to how you get to the legal way of getting married, there is money involved. The financial aspect is one thing that has forced couples to cohabit without legally becoming married, and that cannot be taken out of the picture. Then you also have living together that has been out of circumstances. boy meets girl, before you know it, they are pregnant. And the right thing to do at that moment, they would think, is start staying together. And now the moment you start staying together, even from that one child that is making you start staying together, you're going to add another child. And before you know it, your friends, you're now starting a family. And all the finances that you have, it also has an aspect of finance, because you're now building a home together. You start on that journey and set aside the whole finances towards marriage, and they never get to officially get married. But in the long run, they have taken years together, 10. And I think that is also a core issue of why people end up in such marriage, in such relationships. Now you've taken out the marriage thing, it's, it's not working. But that is how we get there. Now the problem is, also men also have taken advantage of the fact that some women would be willing to cohabit with them even without the marriage. And then they also, when they get there, they keep postponing the time. They never bring out the question of when should we get married. So they keep accumulating all these things together in the hope that one day, in the unlikely event that they separate, or you know, they don't have to deal with the whole legally separating things. Because Felix, you would bear me witness, even the couples that are separating, it's not pretty. Not all of them, the married ones, not all of them are happy about this separating stuff, property and finances. They actually don't want that, but because they are legally bound, because there is a law, they are forced to do that. So even with the paper, with the marriage certificate, people it's hard for them to separate things. Now imagine a man who has had you in his family, you have given him kids, it's a long time. Do you think he's willing to expose himself to such a law? They get away with it, and they will keep you there for years and years. Now for me, I think this is where we also need to take it in our hands, and this mostly affects women, and it has to be clear that way, because as a woman, the moment you start staying with this man, it is now your responsibility to make sure that whatever is achieved in that relationship, you're also part of it. And I've seen women make such mistakes.
Beg your pardon? Mollen, don't...
no, we are talking about...
No, I'm just trying to understand.
Yes.
Don't worry. It's like, I'm just trying to understand. Please come again. What's your last statement?
The moment you're staying with someone, you're living together, you're cohabiting.
Sure to be a part of what?
You are a part of this relationship.
Okay. So whatever is gotten...
No, whatever you are achieving, you are a part of it. And let me tell you, you have women, and
is that automatic?
It's not automatic.
Is that by
it's not
by
automatic.
Force? I don't know.
No, because earlier we did establish that you support this man through your. It can be financial, it can be with ideas, it can be with your manpower. Exactly, that is you supporting. And I also want us to acknowledge that there are women who financially support men. A man goes and buys property, and you have supported his in quotes, your husband, you've given him money, he buys property.
Migrated. Where
they are there. You buy property, and this particular man puts their name on the property, even with your money involved. And because, you know, this is my... Exactly. Yes. This is a big mistake that women are making. Because the moment you do that, you have your money on that property, but he has the name, he has the title. And in the event that you have to separate, this is something you cannot take back. There is no way you're going to convince that, you see, I added 200 million on that very property. It's not anywhere. You know. And the man will get away with it. This is why 27-year relationships are getting into court.
So what you're trying to say, Mollen, is that if there is no legal status in this sense, women shouldn't have input?
No, they should have input.
Without even
but
legal?
Be careful.
Isn't that now risky related to what we are saying?
No, not without being legal. This is the legal aspect I'm bringing in. You have money that you're giving this man to actually acquire something for your family. Well. So be part of the documentation.
If it's a title, have your name there.
Yes, and this is legally okay. Make sure that you're part of that.
Bed, with a receipt, make sure it is in.
We are not talking about a bed. I don't think these women are coming to court to ask whether to separate the bed. We are talking about financial aspects. We're talking about assets here. We're not talking about the petty things. And I don't want you guys to make it seem like these women are coming after petty things. They're coming after big assets that they have had a big contribution to. And we talk about housing. Now, if you look at some of the countries that have really put this into law, like the housing part of it, as a home, you've built a home together. Now, when you're separating, who stays in that home? This is where most women will want to be, to ask for the home, even when they don't have their names on the title or whatever. But they have children, and now you want them to leave their children in that home without their presence. So that is something that they're also trying to harmonize. Where can the law come in to say at least so and so maintains the home, or whoever is staying with the children actually maintains the home?
And this is, I just want to bring in Robert right there. And do you think, Bob, this is a cultural challenge for us? Based on what Mollen is saying, Mollen brings in a very good example. Why does it have to be the women all the time to leave? Even you've had words, you've had some of those things.
Because it is the men who actually marry in the first place. They are the ones who ask you to
but that's
marry
the thing.
them.
But that's the thing. Like, doesn't that speak directly into what we are saying? Like, why does it have to be the woman always to leave, the woman to take the small up, even when the contributions could be equal? Isn't that a stereotype that we have gotten from culture, society, religion, and what? Isn't that the challenge we are facing?
Definitely, you've put it right. And actually, the very reasons you've given are the very reasons why we are seeing increase in these cohabiting relationships. Because in our cultures, I want to speak for Buganda, where I've grown, a woman doesn't just go like that.
What do you mean?
You don't just wake up and you're in a man's home. Tewefumbiza in Buganda. You know, you have to leave home in an honorable way. Your aunties must see you. We see you off. Where luck is, we even eat a waka goat. You know, so and in all societies I want to say in Africa, we didn't have that way of where a woman, a man, you don't just wake up.
What is the rationale of that?
So it was
because the biggest challenge to what you're saying is that does it still have relevance? What was the reason of that?
What was the reason of that? One is to avoid scenarios like this, that because the family wasn't included, even when you come to part ways, who are you going to? You have to run to the law. You get it? Because what these marriage and these preparations do is they bring us together. That you see, Felix, Mollen's family gets to know the Nkundas very well. They get to know the Kenyanas very well. So what is happening? Even in an event of such, you first go to the aunties, you get it. Then the entire family needs to go to go and say this, what has happened? So even this rude way of saying just move out, just go, was counted for, because the elders would discuss. So they were guarding against that. Go to faith, religion, where we have religious decadence, that people are no longer rooted in faith. The church would come in, this, that. So when you do it between the two of you, you don't have these shock absorbers. They are very far from you. And there is no that continuation. And they would guard against things like, you can't do this. So that is the number one problem. Okay. And that is why I think, much as we want a law, we cannot say let's regulate. We can better focus on how do we reduce. You can't have something increasing from 14 to 30 in just a spate of a few years. You know, you must say how best we go back and reduce on cohabitation. I want to tell you, when we are still asking for a tanker, some are asking for cars, you see, it's becoming so hard to formalize. I think it's only the civil, Felix, which is a bit cheaper. But go to a traditional marriage today. If you want to go for an introduction today and say, Mollen, I come and we get introduced, minimum could even be 40 million. Now making a wedding, if you don't have your 70, just there, don't talk about having formalizing a wedding, because even church fee in some churches goes as 400,000 just to come to church, and then the men of God or women of God put a ring on you and bless this marriage. 400,000. So we've made it very expensive that even people who would want to formalize fear formalizing. You're going to have wedding meetings and people will begin by exciting you. By the end of the day, the wedding approaches, your budget is 70 million, you have 10 million. So we need to go back and address what are some of these issues. Traditional institutions, the Kingdom of Buganda, what was introduction by then and what is introduction today?
Robert, having said that, I just want to come in and give my opinion about this whole thing. Here's the thing. You see, let's not look at cohabitation as an invention of this generation. Many of the people viewing us here, the few that were lucky, their parents got married. But many of the families have lived under cohabitation. And they've had children and raised them. And the issue hasn't been that as a fact. Today, it's a big deal because of individual failures. Let's say it as it is. We have challenges with the kind of men who are cohabiting and the kind of women who are cohabiting. That's where the problem is, in my opinion. It's not with the word cohabitation. People today can't live together because of very many things. And I'll tell you a couple of them. One, the kind of friends we have, or peer pressure, let me say it that way. For our dear, lovely women who are cohabitants, don't know, the people who cohabit.
So in cohabiting relationships.
They're not doing it alone, you know.
No, I'm about, of course, I'm coming to the man, to the guys. The women have their own challenges. And I can tell you a list of them in terms of behavior, in terms of mannerisms, in terms sibategeke. Enough. When you go to our brothers, the guys, they have their challenges. They don't want to work. They don't want to work. You find a guy today, ngaria or mukatebe, the woman is the one, as we always say, that kuiriba. Now, what kind of that will never work out because you've lost your masculine definition of a man. Because if you can't feed your family, there's respect is out of the window. That means they're going to talk to you badly. Everything is going to be wrong. I don't think cohabitation is a problem. And that's why I asked earlier. And this is why I find this petition a bit lacking. That let's not focus on what women get out of a relationship. That's very unfair. We need to focus on what we can put in a relationship to have it work. When we start focusing on when we part, what will I take? That means we're already having a biased mind even as we go into these cohabitations or these relationships. And it is only peculiar for the people who intend to stay together that they need to have time together before they even commit. And I'm the kind of person who believes that cohabitation is a process to marriage. It should be. It should be. No wonder that's why they talk about. The church
condemns that.
No, yeah.
That's why even when you're making your vows in some churches, you say beginning with the today.
Let me tell you, the blessing of the Lord, Him on Himself gave us some of the gifts of the Spirit, and one of them is wisdom. It's one of the biggest things that the Lord can give you, to discern from men's inculcations onto us. Okay? The church, I am the church as well. The church is not people in robes. I am the church as well. Right? And that's why we are having most marriages break because of that thing. Church is forcing people. You don't know how you take someone at home, is snoring from 7 to 7. They even snore as they walk. You take someone at home, they can't cook. You know, we need to be intentional. And these are the challenges.
Are those grounds for separation?
Trust me, they are. And the mistake we make is by overlooking these small things. That's where the problem starts. I told you the scenario that I hit when I just got into practice. And a lady comes to petition for divorce. And you know the reason? The man wasn't buying food. You ask the man, what's the issue? He's like, I never saw my dad buy food. I'm about 40, but I've never seen my dad. You think that's small, and then you try to interact with the mother says, no, I used to buy food because your father used to give me money, but you never saw. Those small things are the ones that have failed relationships. Mannerisms, etiquette. You find a woman who can't cook.
A dirty one.
How would you know all these things? And I'm not saying I am for cohabiting, but I think we need to be very much intentional about the people we want to spend our lives with. You need to be well with most of their ways. At least be able to get a 60% of what you can live with.
Because a fair relationship is better than a broken marriage.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm not saying, and that shouldn't take so long.
Are you guys talking, saying that some of these women actually call for what happens to them in a cohabitation?
I don't want to focus on women. I want to focus on both parties. I don't want to say women.
Yes. And
let me tell you, I have met very loose and lousy men. Very loose and I know them, I see them, some of them are our friends. They are not intentional about providing, they're not intentional about their roles as heads of those small homes, because it is that is in cohabiting that should turn into a marriage.
Yes.
You get the point. Not the reverse.
So this is
but you can't get married and start cohabiting in a marriage.
And I think
Because there's that possibility.
This is where some people would bring in a sentence like, sometimes common sense is not common. Because, exactly, because after 10 years or 20 years of marriage, how do you not have the moral decency to look at this person as a partner, as someone who also...
No. Mollen, let me tell you, that's what I'm saying. That is the problem, that you didn't address the primary things at the beginning. Once you start being dismissive about those small things.
What is there to address after 20 years
now,
of you being
this is what happens, Felix, let me get in
having about 5 kids together?
Yes, this is what happens, Mollen.
You'll be surprised.
This is what happens,
going back to before, to 10 years, to 20 years back?
Let me just give you an answer to that.
As you come in, when you skip a stage, you will come and pick it up. I can assure you in life. And that's one of the biggest advices I've got from the elders, one of my elders. He came and told me, do everything. And the Bible says it. The Bible says somewhere in Ecclesiastes, and I love it more in Luganda because that's how we used to say it with my granny. Nyumirwa obuvubuka bwo ng'okyasobola nkuba emyaka gikola gigendera. I don't know how to say it in English, but remember you read it a lot in Luganda. So you need to take, if you miss a step, if you don't relate, go out, argue, you're going to come back and pick. And that's what happens after 20 years that you're saying. And you have 5 kids, and you're bringing the arguments you should have had when you've just seen each other. Then you start saying, university. It's 20 years after university. Why even talking about...
And you know, Felix, where we get to that, many times people have asked themselves, why would people break up after 10 years? But the thing is, these people already broke up. But this is what happens when people come together. I'm a Christian, and of course, I wouldn't love to advocate for cohabiting. I would love, as my Christian values would say. But this is what happens. You meet a Mollen, you only meet at restaurants, eat, we are protecting ourselves, being very righteous. Now, you miss the internship process of marriage. I earlier said a failed relationship is better than a broken marriage. Now, this is what happens. That these people have been struggling for 10 years. It is at the 10th year that they have finally agreed we can't part. That Mollen, when we get together, then have 1 kid, every time there's someone pushing us to stay together, the longevity of this being in this marriage may not mean that actually it has all been good until the 10 years. No. Today your auntie says, she's now pregnant. How are you going to abandon her? Then the uncle says, at least let this child reach 3 years. How are you going to move with a child if in case the lady lives with a child? So there is always issues that are postponing until someone reaches and says, no, these children have now grown up, I can leave them safely. You've heard women saying, I'm here because of my kids. If my kids singa ndabanga bakuzemu besobola awonja kugenda, that may be 10 years, and the world would say, how this man, no, you can't leave someone after 10 years. The man has been tolerant, the woman has been tolerant of this lumpen who drinks, who is useless, but having babies for these 10 years. Now says, I can leave my children, they can go to boarding school, they have attained some level of education. The husband has been patient with this woman who even the Bible says that sleeping in a house of a quarrelsome woman, you rather sleep on the rooftop. He has he has been there for the 10 years, really struggling and saying, let my children at least understand mother, father love, that even when we split, they have proper memories of mommy and daddy. So that's what happens, sister.
Well, of course, before we get into concluding this particular story, I want to just engage in what our viewers have commented, but do remember that we are looking at cohabiting, and the big question is, why is it on the increase most recently? Now, we have Henry who comes in and says, some go in for cohabiting due to domestic issues, especially in villages and remote areas. That is Henry. And of course, we have another one from Mastiko in Chenjojo who comes in to say, now, the ever-increasing cost implication on introducing on a marriage partner, wedding is scaring. Formalization of marriage has become very expensive. Society should make a resolution to introduce and wed with literally no pet parting. What does a party mean to married relationships? He also adds, my father and mother raised me since 1970, and I'm sure they didn't have a registered marriage. It's me who sponsored their wedding after graduating from Makerere 26 years later. Don't tell me they were cohabiting. Wow.
Oh, they were.
Thank you so much, Mastiko in Chenjojo.
That's a good
But if you weren't cohabiting, why did you sponsor their wedding, Mas?
Because
but anyway, it's simple one. Cohabiting, that is another one. I have another one from Richard. cohabiting has always been part of our culture. The only issue there is a relationship does not vest rights. So that's what I believe the petitioners want. The other thing is that the rising number of these cohabiting cases is a result of the increased population. That's quite true. YouPOS statistics should not be misinterpreted. In the past, the numbers were commensurate with the population, and that's why they seem few. Either we make it easy to marry or empower women not to enter those arrangements. Otherwise, legalizing it will dilute marriage, and no one will aspire for marriage. Well, of course, some don't even know the meaning of cohabiting. That is calling from Mengo there. But as we do conclude, I just want to get your last shots. And from I want to get your last shots. Starting with you, Mollen. Emulation. I didn't want to hear. I didn't want to hear what Robert was saying. Yeah. But let's start with you, Mollen.
Yes.
What would you say lastly about this topic? Cohabiting, even far from the feeder things and what? Is it something that is an evil we are living with? Or it's something we can live with?
I think, like you say, sometimes it's a necessary evil, actually, because I think also, our viewers have put it clearly, the financial attachment to it makes it hard to actually formalize a marriage, and that is an issue right there that we have to recognize. But also, I think my parting advice would be intentional. Before you get into a relationship, you are aware, you're two adults, we're talking about people above 18. You're aware of the consequences of cohabiting. It's not a guarantee that you will be wed actually at one point. It's not a guarantee. You might never have that marriage certificate. Now that means that from day one, the moment you agree to stay with this man or to stay with this woman, you need to be intentional about whatever is happening in that marriage. Yes, you share love, you share kids, but how about the assets that are involved, the property that is involved? Because this is the big question here. You must know that once you have a contribution to that, you have rights to actually have part of that in case of a separation or death or whatever. But also, I don't want women to take advantage. By virtue of the fact that you're getting married to this man or you're cohabiting with this man, you found him with a lot of assets that he has, and now in the event of separation, you want to be considered either to take a certain percentage, and before I think we had a 50%, it's just recently the court has talked about 20%. You want 50% of the said property that you just found this man having accumulated. I think sometimes it takes, some kind of morality, some kind of decency to determine what you're entitled to. And I think this is where we can talk about Africa as having a tradition, but I think this is where white guys beat us, because they also look at what you accumulated before the marriage. If these assets, the assets that you had before, they cannot be involved sometimes. And this is why we also get in the women who are bayaye that get into some of these marriages for the assets, and 4 years or 2 years after the marriage, they're like, okay, if we can separate, but guess what? I have 50%. And some of this is how people end up in bad marriages. That is even how people end up committing suicide, because they are stuck in certain relationships. So be intentional. And make sure that you're smart about whatever is happening, but also let's have the morality. You have been with someone for a certain amount of time. You cannot sit back and tell us they have not contributed to anything in your life. So I think it takes a certain sense of morality. Okay, before I bring in Bob there, I want to read a message from Fred Bukenya. Frederick, that is in Lira City, and thank you so much for always watching, Fred. He comes out to say about family and status, some women who are in cohabiting are insecure and also want the property rights. Probably that's why they are petitioning. He also adds to say today introduction and marriage is very expensive. That is why cohabiting is on increase to some extent. Felix, Kirabo and Mollen, thanks for the program. Of course now that, but also obeyed from Kakoba Mbarara. Right, he says this right is necessary when it comes to sending away the woman pricelessly, but will it protect even the man? For instances when he has been providing for everything, but the woman always also decides to leave unnoticed. Now, as women who are vouching for this, how about the men? That's why in the beginning I said, should we now also be having a mida or maid something to come out and vouch for the rights? But anyway, as I bring in Bob for the conclusion. Well, I just have a simple question for Mollen, and then I'll give my concluding remarks. Mollen, in case we are cohabiting, I'm just using a couple, but I'm using us who are on set here.
would you pay or provide so that I can legalize our marriage? For example, would you give me money to buy what to take to your parents? Would you give me money in case you're doing...
who was taking it then?
No, I'm saying, because we want to... Would you contribute? Would you pay for your introduction? Maybe.
I think I understand what you're trying. I understand what you're trying to ask.
I'm just asking Mollen.
And I think what...
And the women watching, that's there. You're with this man, every year you're telling him, but maybe you have your money. Would you give that man money? So what will you deal?
I think what you're trying to arrive at is whether a woman is willing to have support towards legalizing that marriage. And my answer is yes. Because you look at the issue of especially introduction. I think men, these days we have men who separate these two occasions and say, you know what, you take care of the introduction, I'll take care of the wedding. And usually it's about who is actually financially able. In this case, we're talking about if I have gone for a Kirabo and I know Kirabo has a certain amount of money and maybe I earn more than him, then as a person who is intending to stay with this man, you should be able to support.
I love that.
But talking about the support doesn't mean, and there is a but, it doesn't mean that now you're going to sit back and relax and you're like, she has money, she's going to take care of everything. She's going to buy the so-called cows and take to her own family. That is you being lazy. So I think men should also be able to step up, but women are supporting, if you ask.
For me, finally, I just want to say that we must accept the reality. Cohabiting relations are on an increase, and much as we are pushing for the law, let's also find solutions to end or reduce cohabitation. Most of the messages that have come in have talked about making legalization of marriage, of these relationships very expensive. Yet traditionally, none of our cultures made it that very expensive. They looked at things that were in their community. For example, Buganda, they had the mwenge. Chita, was something that is easily accessible. Today we have made this very, very expensive and a threat. And I tell you, we are going to see more of these relations on an increase. Then also religious leaders and church. We need to ensure that we help people formalize these marriages. Otherwise, biblically, it is wrong. Culture-wise, it is wrong. And we are seeing the effect it has on our society.
Well, of course, having said all that, my wrap-up would be, I think there's a lot that needs to be done by families. We need to train our loved daughters and our sons on being husbands, not cohabitants. It's a duty. People don't, and one of our viewers said, they don't understand these things. They don't know the importance of marriage because you didn't ever tell them or show them the importance of that. There's a lot that leaves to be desired when it comes to parenting. All these things are challenges of poor and bad parenting lately. Some people will tell you openly,
but even Felix, bridal shower, kuchara, introduction.
And I'm coming to that.
But you only do it when you can afford.
That's
We
what I'm
also
coming
have
to.
a problem
That's
of men, Felix.
still mandatory now.
Felix, I think we also have men that have had to deal with, I think, the kind of pressure. Yes, so your woman wants a certain kind of bridal shower. Must you do that if you cannot afford it?
Will you have sleep?
So people are getting loans to actually do some of these
You
parties.
think you can sleep, Mollen?
Yeah, but why are you getting a partner that you cannot reason with?
Well,
reason with your partner. You're already there, but reason with them and make sure they can understand. So you want your man to take a loan just for you to have a bridal shower. I think some of these things are just unreasonable.
As I was saying, every woman out there has their heart's desires.
Yeah.
I've had many women tell their better ones, let's make these things affordable. Marriage is very hard lately because it's quite expensive, I'll be honest. And as Robert was saying, I don't want to be dismissive about what he's saying. It's a reality. Men may not have the voice, and that's the worst thing about tradition, that men have always been told not to talk, not to, and they are going through hard times. Bridal shower, many positivity. Why would you change 7 times on your wedding? But you see, you have to live within your means.
If this particular person can afford 7 times changing a dress, let them do. But you, if you can only afford 3 times,
has made marriage
do that. You don't have to measure up to someone who is not in your financial pocket.
So, that's why I was putting it back to our parents. I think we need to look at marriage and try to sanctify it as the true definition of marriage. Secondly, dowry there's a big contradiction, and I know it, and it changes from society to society. I have been to a colleague's kuchara, and the guys asked for 15 cows. Man, I almost jumped out of the chair where I was sitting. And when I had the discussions going on, they made it look like it was normal for a particular setting. When you go to another one, there's now the Nigeria and someone asked for 32 cows. That one I said, I was like going, but that was okay with their tradition. One of the challenges we are having, by the way, about marriages is cross. Kirabo, Nyonyintono. You want to go for a Mollen Kenyana. The Kenyanas, they will tell you want 32 cows.
Because within them the cows are there.
And that's their tradition.
But even what is now coming, that even in addition to their tradition, we've added in all cultures cross-cutting. Buganda is no longer chitacha amwenge. It is also now cows.
It's solar panels. It's crazy. But anyway, we do pray so much that our young gentlemen out there who are intentional about living with women, of course it's unavoidable, we always need better herbs. Let's be able to be compromising. Let's meet halfway. Let's help each other. I'm the kind of person who believes marriages are good things. We have seen marriages work out. We have seen marriages be happy. It's a definition of responsibility for us men and all these other things, family, children, but it's something that it's constant work. You must always report. It's like work. You have to show up every day and make your marriage better, from cohabiting to a marriage to whatever it is. It's a process. Agree to go through the process, take time to learn each other, but always believe that there's going to be falling and standing, falling and standing, falling and standing. It's a prayer we have to make. I don't want to be conclusive about what should be done, what shouldn't be done. Every relationship is as good as the members in that relationship and how intentional they are. But we believe and trust that family is key in forming formidable and relevant society. So that is it from us, and that discussion. Be able to, again, to send us more of your thoughts on the handles we gave you on social media, Facebook, Twitter, but also on our WhatsApp number 0709 that is 60 25 92. Mollen will be reading them, but we're going to take a break. We'll be back. And of course, if you want to catch those lovely movies you can have this weekend, where to be, where not to be, also who to be with, and of course we'll be having a small discussion into the World Cup, the build-up of the same. We're having the finals on the 18th, it is, and that will be live on UBC. And of course, for some of you have been following, we try to keep up to the promise. You'll be able to tell us about that at the end of it. But let's take a break. We'll be back. Mollen is going to be giving you the heights of entertainment with the movies, and of course we are reviewing known to be. She's going to also be telling us about a particular book. For some of you, Kirabo, are you a reader? It's good to be honest, you know.
If anything is to do with politics, history, but there are some books that never take my attention when I go to. So I don't want to call
about life, people writing.
Me, if you want me anything political, historical, Pan-Africanism, but there's some books I find, and
I think let's just end on you loving the
I just wanted to say yes. But myself,
because when you say you're a reader, certain people think that the people whom I know will read anything. You get it? You move with them in a bookshop. Once to people,
I think
they're not that very
Kirabo should have a discussion with our guests today.
I tell you, there's something. Be attentive when Mollen hosts the lady who's writing the book. But of course, I love to read. Although I'm very particular. I'm very particular in terms of what I read. I have now been closed into academia, so I have to read by force. Mollen here says he's a reader.
I am.
What
aviation and what and sci-fi, ni-fi, wife.
A very broad genre of what I read. So
So she says. But anyway, are you a reader? Stick to this TV. You're going to be learning something new about authorship, and of course, one of our guests today is going to be telling us about a book she wrote. Very beautiful lady I saw, but. The color complexion competes with that of Mollen. But anyway, let's take a break.
She's a married lady.
Oh, lovely.
For your information.
Blessed she is. Blessed she is. Probably she also wants to weigh.
For your information.
Even when you just look and admire.
Gentlemen.
You've committed sin.
Anyway, she'll be telling us on the topic, probably just briefly about the topic we had earlier. But I know she's a feminist. Let's take a break. We'll be back with Mollen.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800 100-066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
Every waking day is a reminder just how beautiful this, our land, truly is. The kind of beauty that you can only find here, in the lush green all around us and the wondrous sights within. It's in the distinct aroma of our cooking, to the taste of food that takes you on a journey, in the sound of homecoming and the sound of Mother Earth. In the magnificence we find on our travels and the exciting moments we experience. Ours is the kind of beauty that comes in all things big and small. All we have to do is awaken our senses and truly enjoy what's uniquely ours. Explore Uganda, the pearl of Africa.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Dana from the marketing department. All I recall for Christmas are just amazing and beautiful memories, and I really can't wait this season to celebrate Christmas with my family. I love you all. A Merry Christmas.
Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Happiness comes to us in many places. It's in knowing the mosquito net keeps our children healthy. The wife having the support of her husband. It's in deciding together when to have a baby. And for some, focusing on what's important right now. So what's your happiness? Make the right health decisions to ensure happiness for you and your family.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Yes, very good morning, and want to welcome you back. It is Good Morning Uganda Friday, and right now I can tell you outside there it doesn't feel that warm at all as we're looking at rains, especially around Kampala and most areas across the Lake Victoria Basin. Now we want to tap into our satellite for this morning and take a look at the weather situation over Uganda, and that is from the UMIT satellite. We're looking at mostly a rainy morning across areas within the Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about mostly the central region where we have Kampala, where we have Mukono, Entebbe. Right now we still have that rainy system in place, so there are a lot of rains across that area. Now if you're headed into town or some of these areas, you need to be aware. Make sure you're carrying that jacket, make sure you have that umbrella, and of course also make sure that your car wipers are actually in place so that you can be able to maneuver through. Now we're looking at that system where we see the orange colors, green and blue right there. That's the rainy system that I'm talking about. It is extending all the way up to areas of Wakiso as well. You're looking at that also extending towards mostly the central region. So that means it will be dumping rains towards areas of Ruwero, Woblenzi. You can expect to have those rains as well. Areas of Nakasongola. Now that is also extending towards the eastern side. That means taking in areas of Jinja and of course bringing in cloudy weather for areas of Tororo. We did have a few rains across some parts of Tororo this morning, but looks like that system has started to clear up, mostly heading westwards. So that means that it is also bringing rains towards some areas within the central part. Buyende, you can also expect to have those rains your way. Also looking at the western side of Lake Victoria, we do have a system that is also towards areas of Masaka. You can expect to have those rains as the morning progresses, and we're also looking at mostly cloudy weather especially for areas within Midwestern Uganda. But also looking into what we have for Southwestern Uganda, we're looking at quite a sunny morning for Kabale Highlands. We're looking at Kisoro as well, Mbarara, starting off with quite intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. Also all the way across Midwestern Uganda, we're looking at Hoima as well. We have a little bit of rains that did start off earlier, but those have started to clear off as we speak, and that means that we're clearing off for mostly a mix of clouds and sunshine. Quite a sunny morning as well across northern Uganda, Gulu, Padel, Apache, Amuria. We're looking at most of that, starting off with a sunny morning. Lira as well, starting off quite sunny. We will have intervals of cloudy conditions as the morning progresses. We're also looking at the Karamoja region, where we're talking about a sunny morning as well, all the way across Kotido, Moroto. We're looking at sunny weather for you this morning. And of course also extending to eastern Uganda, yet another sunny morning for you across Amuria, Soroti, and that is similar conditions for Mbale, that is across the Mount Elgon Highlands, where we're also looking at quite a mix of clouds coming in for this morning. But again, we'll be expecting more rains to develop for that area later as the day progresses. Now, more rains are still expected later in the afternoon. That is for areas especially within the southern part of the country, and of course we'll have more developing especially for areas within parts of central Uganda. But taking a look at our geographical analysis, and also that comes in from the models that we have across Africa, we're looking at more of that weather continuing for much of the day today, and more rains still expected across southwestern part of the country, that is across Kabale Highlands as well, parts of Kisoro. That will extend all the way towards the Rwenzori area, where we're seeing the blue colors right there. That is indicative of the rainy weather still expected for much of today. Otherwise, it's still going to be quite dry for the northern sector. That takes in eastern Uganda, that takes in parts of the Choga region as well, northwestern, as well as the Karamoja region. But then again, as we head into the weekend, we can expect to have a little bit of similar weather, that is across the northern part of the country, where we'll be seeing a continuation of dry weather conditions, and that means it is also extending all the way up to the Rwenzori area. Parts of central, you can expect to have quite a dry weekend for you, and that is in terms of Saturday. We're also looking at reduced wet weather activities for areas within Mount Elgon Highlands, where we're seeing the open whitish colors and gray. That is indicative of dry weather. Even the rains that we are expecting in that light blue color, those are going to be in smaller quantities, and that is across areas of the Western Lake Victoria Basin, Central as well as Western Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about areas all the way from Tororo. You're looking at Jinja, Kampala, Mukono, Wakiso, looking at areas also crossing over into Mbarara, the western side towards Kabale. We are expecting rains, but those will be in a few quantities. So Saturday is actually a good day in terms of reduced wet weather activities across much of the country. Otherwise, we'll also continue to have dry weather for Sunday. As we move into Sunday, we're still looking at mostly intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions for much of the northern sector still. Karamoja, northern Uganda, that is the central north and west Nile, still expecting more sunshine coming through for Sunday. We're also looking at most of that crossing over onto Midwestern. That is where we have areas of Masindi, Hoima, crossing over all the way up to the Rwenzori side, Kasese. We're looking at where that area still expected to have mostly sunny weather, and that takes in Bushenyi as well. We're looking at also crossing back towards areas of Mubende. That also takes in areas of Nakasongola, Nakaseke. We're looking at Ruero. That will also be dominated with mostly in terms of sunny and cloudy conditions. Now we again see more rains developing for the Mbale area. That means that we will be seeing at least a pickup of wet weather activities for some areas within the Lake Victoria Basin as well, but still not so much to disorganize the day according to the forecast from these models. Now that means that at least if you look into Saturday and Sunday, if you were to choose for a day that has less rains, I would suggest Saturday, because that is where we're seeing a little bit of decline in terms of wet weather activities. Well, we're also looking at what we could expect for much of today. We're looking at mostly a cold morning across areas within the Lake Victoria Basin. We're talking about Kampala, we're talking about Wakiso, Entebbe. You can expect that it's going to be quite cold weather, especially with relation to those rains that we've had for much of today. Now, right now, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, we'll be looking into more of the entertainment news, what you can expect for the weekend, but also we'll be getting back with our guest to look at a book review on what seems to be a bestseller across town right now.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, we're looking at what you could be expecting for the weekend, and of course one of the movies still trending, if you have watched an action but also does include a little bit of adventure. We're talking about the series The Recruit. Now, The Recruit is streaming out today. That is across Netflix, and of course does bring with it a lot to do with crime and adventure, and of course the action. We'll take a look at the trailer and see what to expect from this series.
What the hell is this?
Every letter is from someone threatening to expose classified information if we don't help them.
You're the lawyer. Figure it out.
Embrace the rigid. I'm playful with it. Yeah, basically.
Get cute. Do your business. And get out.
I'm Owen Hendricks from the CIA. We got your letter.
Have you made any new friends or overthrown any foreign governments?
Unbreakable. You following?
You do know bullets go through metal, right? Yeah.
Congratulations, you're being followed by the entire United Nations.
Is the hood really necessary?
No. You get this under control, no matter what it takes.
Seriously? Have you ever had a panic attack?
Oh, I've been having one continuously since 2019. You get used to it.
Good luck. You're gonna need it. Is there a problem?
So many.
Who are you kidding?
Higher stakes, make it more challenging. But the bottom line is, I'm a guy that doesn't mind falling on his face. I'm 24 years old. I'm supposed to make mistakes. Take big swings.
How about a martini?
How about a White Claw?
This need to jump into the deep end, to prove yourself over and over again, it's unhealthy.
I think it's ambitious.
Well, quite a story there about a CIA lawyer who is caught up in dangerous game of international politics. But when a former asset threatens to expose the nature of this relationship with the agency unless they clear her name, well, that is another story. If you've watched a series like The Blacklist, you know what this is all about. This is what to expect for this movie, and of course it is featuring some of the best actors in Hollywood. We're talking about mostly Noah Centineo, who is playing right in there as the main character, but we also have Laura Haddock, who is one to look out for in this series. That is streaming today. Go ahead and catch that. Now, another movie is talking about a lifestyle, but also upcoming events that do happen in real time. Now, this is what we're talking about. An immigrant, a housemaid, who now goes into a fake relationship, but also this is included with a death of a chauffeur who is in a blackmail plot. This is what to look out for Private Lesson. This is also coming out today and will be streaming on Netflix. Let's take a look into the trailer.
Edebiler kulübü. Vay deli galiba. Gel ya. Ya Azra, sen olmasan var ya, tweet'i mümkün değil ayarlayamazdım.
Güzel yavaş. Biri duyacak.
Ben de özel ders almak istiyorum. Utku'yla sevgili olmak istiyorum.
Kural 1. Söylediklerime harfiyen uyacaksın. Kadın erkek eşit değil. Dengededir. Pardon. Tamamlanmak için herkes kendi rolünü oynar. Erkeklerin kadınlarda ilk etkilendikleri şey ne biliyor musun?
Gülüş.
Gözünün tam içine bakarak gülmeyi öğrenmeliyiz.
Vaktim varsa bir kahve.
Tabii, olur.
Benim bir öğretmenim vardı. Öyle hemen atlama teklifler ederdi ama kaybettik kendisini. Ben de özel ders almak istiyorum. Utku'yla sevgili olmak istiyorum.
Kural 1. Söylediklerime harfiyen uyacaksın. Kadın erkek eşit değil. Dengededir. Pardon. Tamamlanmak için herkes kendi rolünü oynar. Erkeklerin kadınlarda ilk etkilendiği şey.
Well, quite a very interesting one right there, but it does have the English version as well. With Netflix, you can actually get a variety of the languages you want to watch it with. But this is a good one to actually catch up with. Now, talking of today, if you're hitting cinema, you do know that there is a movie that is actually on top trend today. We're talking about Avatar, The Way of the Water. The movie is out. And of course, it is starting to show today across your favorite cinemas. That is when you can hit and actually watch this movie. Now, Avatar does take you through a story of Jake Sully and Neytiri, who has formed a family and are doing everything to stay together. However, they must now leave their home and explore the regions of the Pandora. When a nation's threat resurfaces, Jake must fight a difficult war against the humans to make sure that they are able to retain their home. Now, Avatar does star actresses like Zoe Saldana. Now, Zoe is best known for her role in the Marvel world. Well, she has been also involved in the the Avengers. That is Zoe right there playing as Neytiri, but also Sam Worthman, Sam who is playing as Jake Sully, is also right in there. Let's take a look into the trailer and see what to expect from The Way of the Water.
Why do you come to us? I just want to keep my family safe. Treat them as our brothers and sisters. Teach them our ways. Keep up, Forest Boy! If you want to live here, you have to ride.
Let's do it.
Just breathe. Breathe.
Outcasts, that's all they see.
I see.
I'm a warrior like you. I'm supposed to fight.
Protect the people.
Let's get it done.
Avatar, The Way of Water. Experience it in 3D.
I just want to keep my family safe.
Avatar, The Way of the Water right there, and of course you do know that you can catch that. It is a plot that I would easily show up for, and I do know that I'll also be going for the Avatar. I can't miss this story. Well, talking about what you can't miss, we also know that some of you enjoy a good read. If you're unable to catch some of these movies, you might want to sit home and get a good read. Now, we're talking about a book today that is easily available for you. You can easily just show up in a bookstore, but also get some of these books online. We have the author in studio right now. This morning, I am honored to be hosting the author of the book, I Am a Woman, I Am Love. We're talking about Zaina Nakanwaji, who is in studio with us. Zaina, welcome and a good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yes, it is a good morning, although it's a cold one. But we want to talk more about this book. We do know that when you look at the genre that people write about, you have chosen a certain type of line when it comes to, having a collection of poems. This, I had a chance to get a review into the book or see a little bit of what I would call the abstract, and I can tell you I'm amazed. You were talking about a story. When you bring in I am a woman, I'm love, one thing I would want to put across first is this is a story about love. But then again, you put in stories about pain, about death. What can people expect from this book?
This book is actually, it is basically about the art of emotions, but puts down into words in a very artistic way. Poetry is one way to communicate, and you never get judged.
Yeah.
Yes, you're free to communicate the way you want. So in this book, I tried to pen down a picture of a woman. If a woman is not in love, then a woman is in pain. If a woman is not in pain, then she is expecting to be in pain. That's exactly what I was trying to explain in this book. That is why you see one poem talks about how happy a woman is, and then the next poem talks about how she deals with the heartbreak, how she's dealing with the loss of the loved one. Yes.
Well, it actually talks a lot, because these are deep stories, and you look into daily lives of what people go through, and I think with your writing you're trying to connect with the audience. And you talk about struggles of a woman, and however, or no matter how wonderful a woman is, she manages to still give love, and that right there is what I'm picking up from this book. How are you able to put down, because we're talking about short poems, but leading into a bigger story. Take us through how you're writing this book, chapter by chapter, just how you introduce it, the middle part of this, and then as you head into conclusion. Take us through that.
When I was putting down poems, first of all, I had to be in touch with reality about my friends, about who I am as a person. Then I realized that in our society, women are not given so much attention, and yet they make society. I realized that most women are not even heard, and some of them, because of where we're coming from as women, we do not have the audacity to express who we are. Even when we express who we are, we always back off because we feel like someone else is going to perceive it differently. So poetry has helped me express myself in that way, the inner person. And then I also try to make sure that I keep in touch with my audience, because the problems of a woman entangle in one circle. Women are very, very unique people, and they are made of emotions. A woman is an emotion. That's what I take a woman to be. And so I am not trying to say that men are not pained in one way or the other. I'm just trying to say that women are very, they have a soft landing for pain. They need so much. They need their attention. They need to understand who they are. And these are not the things we are teaching our women out there. Every time a man talks to you, every time a woman talks to you, they always tell you to be strong. No one tells you how to deal with the pain. Some of them actually, sometimes it feels like a competition. If I came here and told you about what I'm going through, and maybe you're going through slightly something the same way, you'll definitely say,
want to relate and be like,
yes, you want to relate.
Or they always be like, I have a friend, I know a friend who has ever gone through something like that. And that is not fair. In that kind
that
of
is not fair at all. If you're going through pain, must I go through the same pain as well? So we are not giving ourselves time to be listened. But I think that's how society is made. Yes, so that's what I'm trying to address in this book. However much we fight, however much the society feels unfair to us, however much we struggle, we still stand and give love. You'll find a woman who has been on street selling mangoes, but when she gets home, she has a baby to nurse. She has a husband to take care of, you know. So this book basically tells you, you are a woman, you're supposed to give love.
And I think that is also in relation to what we're having in the morning about, you know, men and women living together. We would want to understand through some of this writing, do you also get to address the men part in this? Because yes, we're talking about as a woman, give love, and you know, this is upon you as women. We are nurturers. This is the emotions that you talk about actually attached to it. But how do we now bring in the men here?
In this book, there are about 5 or 6 poems that actually call upon men to be the best they can be. to women. And also, now, that's where the contradiction comes from. A man is supposed to be soft to a woman, but the woman, however much she's being treated unfairly, she will still be soft to a man, because that is who a woman is. These are the things you're seeing going on, women fighting for attention, women fighting for equality. The make of a woman is love. The make of a woman is softness. The make of a woman is care.
And that I really agree with, because you look into the fact that women have had to actually fight for the space like you're talking about. This is not delineated out there, and you have to know it and be in touch with it and know that this is a space for you to fight for. However, the emotions are not recognized, and it is through this kind of writing that people get to actually listen and read some of the stories that they can relate with. But Zina as well, do you get to write about these things in relation to your reality, or do you include other genre, like maybe the fiction part of it, the imagination? Do you bring that into the writing?
You know, my books are basically about the
real life stories.
Real life stories. If it's not about me, then it's about my friend. Okay. If it's not about my friend, then it's about my family member. Yes. And I think that's why even people find my poetry very simple, because it is relatable.
Yeah.
It is relatable. If I am talking about losing a father, most people have lost fathers. If I'm talking about a heartbreak, most people have been heartbroken.
Yeah.
If I'm talking about love, most people are in love. So I keep in touch with reality. I don't want to be to go so much into fiction, because that's what everyone else is writing about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that is nice, because we also do sometimes feel like most books are being very much imagination and you're unable to relate to. But the good news is that at least with this story, and we're talking about a book, I Am a Woman, I Am Love, is relatable, something that she does take off the memoir, but also real life stories that she has talked about. But we also need to understand there are lots of writers out there,
yes,
upcoming writers, and people also feel like they have a story to tell, but they have not been given a platform. They don't know where to start. Now, tell us about your journey, and one thing that other writers can pick from and be able to also get into the space of writing, but also be able to tell their story.
The one thing I always tell writers is that you don't write for writers. You write for people who cannot write. Space in writing is available, because art is a unique feature. The way you write is not the same way I write. So my journey started when I was around 16 years. I wrote my first book. I think it is The Feelings.
Yeah.
So I was around 16 years. That's when I started putting poems down. Then after, because I had the will and had dreams of becoming a writer, from the time I was around 8 years, I'd always looked up to Big Tech and then Jackie Collins. I started reading books of Jackie Collins when I was around P4, even though I didn't understand English by then, but I would have a dictionary and have a book around. If I don't understand something, I check out in the dictionary. So my journey was basically inspired by Jackie Collins. Then when I was reading in her book, The World is Full of Divorced Women, it had a line where it said, writers do not die. Even when you die, your ghosts keep on earth. Yeah. So I started imagining myself, I am dead, but my book is in a bookshelf. So I started looking out for such things, how I can keep myself alive even when I'm dead. It's not been easy, because here in Uganda, people don't support writers unless you really,
and by the way,
sprout
just,
out.
Just to interject, you said at 16 you were able to write your first book. But
yes.
How is that like? How were you able to even get this pointed out and have it out there?
I was driven by the dream of wanting a book out. I used to have my pocket money saved almost every time. And I remember the first person who typed my book was a neighbor who had a printer or something. So I used to take my work there. Every holiday I'll take my work there. She types, and then later I had about, I think, 500. I went to Nassau Road and just bumped into someone and explained to him what I wanted. I think that particular person is called Eddie. I've lost touch with him, but he was called Eddie. He's the one who printed my first book. I can tell you my first book was printed from my pocket money. Yes, in secondary. Every term I made sure I
then now you
save.
pick up the pace to get into your second book.
Yes, my second book is called Touch of Emotions. So when I printed the first book, my about 2-3 friends were really happy about it. So every time I wrote something, I would go to them and they would want to help me print the book. Then after, I really can't say someone has helped me print my books out. It has always been my effort. Yes, it's me. Because there is no one you're going to tell you need money to print a book and they would give it to you. Because they don't understand what it feels to write. They don't understand why people should write. They don't understand why people should
won't
read.
share your vision even then. And at that point they will feel like, okay, maybe she's driving her own story.
Yes.
But I think more also as we move to conclude about I Am a Woman, I'm Love. How has that been like for you getting this book out? And so far, how is it moving for you?
This book was supposed to come out before COVID. When COVID came, I kind of feel I stepped back. I didn't have any source of income because, as you know, businesses were down and everything. But my husband helped me finance the printing of the book, and a few friends helped me push the book. So when I told my friends I want to print the book and launch it, they were there for me because they have read my books and they have seen how willing I am to take an extra step. So they always, now they have started supporting me. I can tell you this book came out because of friends. The friends that believe in me, the friends that now know that I can do something with my writing. But of course they don't stop bragging how they don't read.
Yeah.
So
but they still support. That's
they still support,
part.
yes. Every time you drop a book, the person tells, Zena, I'm buying your book just because you're my friend, but I don't think I'll read it. Then there are others who buy the book, before you know it, they're calling father, oh, I'm still in my book. Someone read one particular poem and then went on with my book. So that's how it has been. But writing in Uganda is not easy, I can tell you.
Yes.
People don't want to read, people don't want to buy the books, and people keep discouraging us. I am actually surprised you've not asked me that question, because that's like what everyone asks. How do you make life out of writing? Like, someone tells me I am 60 but I don't own any book in my house. I am 40 but I've never read any book. How are you guys surviving here?
But I also think that is just, you know, like a small percentage, because we also know that there are people who actually get books.
Yes.
And you find if you walked into a bookstore, you'll be surprised how many people are looking at books. And I think that is one thing to also take credit for as a writer and as writers that go on this journey. But also, as we come to the end, Zena, how do we access your book? How can people get these books, and how far when it comes to prices and all that?
I'm selling the book 30 to the readers and 20 to writers, and then 10,000 to the children, just to inspire them to start reading.
Okay.
The book is available at a bookshop. I think it's called Nice Bookshop in Nadia, then also Uganda Museum, Angelina Bookshop, and you can also contact me on my social media, Nakanwaji Zena, and then there's another page, Zena the Poet. So you can just give me a heads up and then I deliver the book. These days I prefer to deliver the book because I keep in touch with my readers. Yes.
And also you're able to sign on the
Yes,
book.
I'm able to sign, I'm able to tell how much someone loves the book.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Zena, for bringing this book. Of course, we do know that it's a relatable story and a lot of people would benefit from reading such kind of writing. And of course, that is one I'll also be looking for. And I think famously being known as Zena the Poet, that brands you as person who comes out with poems. A lot of us do really love poems, and I would also recommend that you go out there, like she has mentioned, get some of these books and make sure that you can entertain yourself. We do have sports highlights that will be coming up, and we'll be picking Felix's guide on that as we lead towards World Cup finals on Sunday. And of course we do have Peter Otai, who will be coming in to give us more of a bigger view, what we could be looking at on Sunday, but also much more about the World Cup finals. When we take a short break, when we get back, we get into sports.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
Pick of the day on UBC.
If I'm looking at issues of taxation and all of that, I will definitely run for the Kateshumbas. Okay? Okay. If I look at, if I'm looking at issues of investments and what, I would definitely run. I would definitely run for Dr. Emure Kugonza and Honorable Omara. Okay. If I'm looking at issues of the law, I will run for our very, very own people. I have the Oboso Bosses, I have the Katuntus, I have the Robin Arwakojos. So everyone is talented in one way or another.
Did you mention Katuntu?
Okay. Yes.
Is he yours?
Yes, he is.
Yours as in NRM?
He is.
Was brought to you by
Gatawo with MTN Momo Advance. Momo Advance tops up your Momo to complete your transactions. Dial star 165 star 5 star 3 hash to apply. MTN Momo Advance is always available when you need it.
It's Freaky Friday from Airtel. Buy or gift. Buy or give.
Get freaky too! Dial star 149 star 10 hash to load a Freaky Friday bundle for you to enjoy the best offers on voice and data.
To buy a bundle for friends and family, dial star 149 star 10 star 5 hash. Freaky Friday with Airtel. Buy or gift a bundle today. Dial star 149 star 10 hash to get started. Airtel, the smartphone network.
The Ministry of Health informs the public that there are confirmed cases of Ebola in Uganda. We, however, urge the public not to panic as the situation is being managed. The Ministry of Health further reminds the public to be on the lookout for any persons who may show signs and symptoms of Ebola. These include high body temperature, abdominal pains, diarrhea, vomiting, bleeding from the body openings such as the nose, eyes, and mouth. Please inform the nearest health worker immediately if you see anyone with these signs and symptoms. To prevent Ebola from spreading further, please take the following preventive measures: regular washing of hands with water water and soap, avoid handshaking and hugging, avoiding any contact with any suspected Ebola patients. Any person who dies suddenly should not be buried but reported to the nearest health worker or LC1 immediately. For further information, please call the Ministry of Health toll-free number on 0800-100-066 or send a free SMS to your report on 8500. This message is from the Ministry of Health with support from UNICEF and World Health Organization.
Well, good morning once again, and of course it will be unfair for me not to say thank you for staying and of course getting glued to Good Morning Uganda. Friday special it is, and of course it is a 16th day. Aren't you glad, Otai, that we are getting into the end of the month?
Yeah, an end of the year indeed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, end of the year.
What really excites you, Otai? Before even I get into the other bit that excites me about you, what excites you about December?
December is the month that my son was born on 22nd.
Wow.
So that's one of the
Is he
biggest.
Emmanuel?
No, he's a Patrick. He's a Patrick. So yes,
we have been told since childhood that the guys who are born towards Christmas should be called Emmanuel.
No. I decided to go with the Patrick. So basically, the Patrick is.
What's the inspiration?
Well, Patrick is actually named after my late brother.
Oh.
Yes. So I decided to honor my late brother and give him the name. Yes.
Well, happy wishes to you, Patrick. Hope you're well. I hope he's watching because
hopefully. You know, kids in holidays. He's actually nursing a broken arm. He broke his arm. That was about 4 days ago. Crazy stuff with these kids of these days.
I tell you, but you're among the best. Anyway, Otai, how are you?
I'm okay.
It's good to have you.
Good to be here.
I'm entirely lucky to host you today.
Thank you very much.
The mighty Otai Peter, the one who's always behind the commentary of World Cup. For some of you who have been following, of course, the World Cup. And we're going to be talking about the build-up of World Cup. We're just now awaiting the clash of the Lions, who have been able to make it at the beacon of the tournament.
Yeah.
But just want to take our viewers and listeners back, how this started, how the build-up has been, who has played better, all these kind of things. Let's have that conversation. And I want to start by asking, this World Cup, does it in any way depict the challenges that have come before it, the COVID and what? Do we still see COVID alive in this World Cup?
No.
In your opinion?
No. If it was an element of COVID being alive in this World Cup, then I think we'd be having very many empty stadiums.
Oh, yes.
But you realize that per now, we've had a stadium that has actually taken over 60,000. I think we have had over 60,000 capacity seaters in this World Cup. So for me, it's an element of COVID has not been there. Yes, we have some countries that have actually been very strict with some of their COVID laws. Some of those countries do not allow, by the way, to show the pictures or videos of the people celebrating. Yes, some of the
fan zones.
No, they don't. They don't allow.
I think it was China.
China doesn't. Yeah? China doesn't allow because it will bring a lot of problems.
Incites people. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, actually, it already brought problems in China. People will hit the streets.
Yes,
because of that.
How comes that we have over 60,000 in a stadium and they're enjoying and they're having fun? But all in all, I don't think if the element of COVID has actually brought a problem for this World Cup. No.
Let's cross over now. Qatar, of all countries.
Yeah.
No history in soccer.
Yeah.
How does it end up in Qatar? Like the desert, the what? These guys have not had any historical relation to. How does World Cup end up in Qatar?
There's been a lot of talk around the press, and this is something that has actually gone on media openly. There is an element that Qatar bribed its way to hosting this year's World Cup. You've heard about that. There was an element of bribery. In fact, one day we did see some journalists actually going in front of Blatter and was throwing out fake currency. Had to be in a press conference.
Imagery,
yes.
So that's something on
we saw that. But for me, I don't think that it is something to be we should concentrate on.
It's not a big deal?
Yeah, well, if you look at what Qatar's offered to the world, really, world-class stadiums, apart from the other issues, but the organization has been very perfect. The lights, the camera, the action.
The primary aspects have been answered in terms of the game.
Exactly, because if you look at the stadiums that we have actually been playing in of recent, they're totally world class. Top notch, including a stadium made out of containers. By the way,
I think that was quite. I think I'm told it's already demolished by now.
It's on the process of being demolished.
Yeah, they're already demolished.
Yeah, exactly, because it is the very first movable stadium that we are seeing in football, World Cup really, whereby a stadium can be built, then after it can be demolished. You know, they spent over $700 million just to construct Stadium 974. Then at the end of the day, the 700 millions will be no more. So these guys have the money; they have no problem.
You know, and as before we head into now the real soccer, the game, the host. At the inception of this, lots of clashes, lots of egos flying over, controversies. What's if you just take us told back about the gay issue, the LGBT, the culture, the alcohol, all this drama?
You see, one thing I've loved with Qatar is you don't mess with their culture. You know, I've seen very many countries that actually you bend, by the way, for you to switch the culture. We need to stick to our guns, that this is our culture. If you're coming to my home, respect my laws of my home. If I tell you that you're not supposed to come to my home at 3 a.m. in the morning drunk, don't come to my home. You rather sleep off. Yes, it's my home. Sleep off, then come back in the morning when you're sober, then I'll welcome you in. So if Qatar comes and says that, look, for us, we are Muslims. We don't bend to the issue of gayism. We don't bend to the issue of alcohol. Follow our culture. Simple. And I have to say they did that very well. And for me, it's a message that I've loved from the guys of Qatar.
Do you think it affected how the World Cup had turned out?
No. I don't think.
Really?
I don't think really, because if it had affected, would we be seeing a lot of fans? See what happened to the Germans. They came and put their message with their first picture of the players holding their mouth. And what happened? They were knocked out very quickly.
Was that the cause?
No, it can't be the cause, but everybody is actually blaming them for bringing politics into the match.
It was unfair.
It was unfair. Yes, they brought politics into football. And at the end of the day, when they were knocked out, you saw statements on social media. Please don't forget your flag when you're going.
When you're going.
So everybody
don't leave your mess behind.
Exactly. So for me, I don't think if that really affected the World Cup. We have had a very good World Cup. I think for those who have watched a few matches on UBC, you'll be proud. But look at that stadium, really. I'm sorry, I have to look at that screen. But that stadium that we've had there, it has been nice. And if you look at the amount of matches we've played, the excitement, the losses, the first loss for Argentina caused a lot of concern. The first loss for Germany caused a lot of concern. The knockout of Spain, a lot. Then Morocco going into the semi-final, the first African country to qualify to the semi-final. For me, I think this year's World Cup has been special.
Let's get into now the football.
Yeah.
And I want to start on that note. What were your biggest shockers so far? The things that shocked you? You've been following football, you've done analysis, you know soccer, you know team by team, their names, where they've come from. What was the shocker? Let's talk about even assembling. Let's start with the assembling. Which team did shock you in how it was assembled? Like you're surprised, why did they leave this person, they brought this?
You see,
what are the biggest shockers in terms of assembling the team?
Assembling the team, I think we've had a lot of issues of injury.
Oh yes,
injuries have affected
many players,
many players. If you go down to France, very many players. Yes,
for example.
Yeah, actually, Mane, Africa. I think we're all relying on Mane,
honestly,
to actually drive Senegal further forward. And the injury to Senegal's Mane actually affected Senegal's play very much. It was all very much evident in some of the matches they played. But the French also, I'm surprised, with very many injuries they had. They have qualified to the finale. N'Golo Kante missing, Karim Benzema to mention but a few. Those are all superstars that were missing. But all in all, I think Deschamps went on to assemble a very, very good squad, which has propelled the team to the finale.
With very many Africans.
Yes,
Central and East Africa.
They call it Africa United.
And I was having an argument here with Mollen and Robert. I told them I'm safer supporting France than Morocco because I can relate easier with the Mbappes, the Congolese, the Saleh Nangayes, the Dembeles are closer than the guys in Morocco. I don't know what your sense about that.
You know, this actually shows the diversity of Africa. You know, we have helped the world very much.
In many things.
From the stories of slave trade to the building of people's economies.